Hello and welcome to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health Urgent Care and Total Rehab. I'm Wes Decker, and I'm just reeling from the fact that I got the news Justin Bieber will be in concert in D.C. and Baltimore coming up, but then I get online and I check out ticket prices, and for the VIP package, it's $1,997 per ticket. You think I can afford that? How could I possibly afford that? Look at the pants I was wearing on Saturday at the cross-country state championships. This actually happened during action right here, and that's the way it looked the rest of the day. I feel sorry for all the spectators who were behind me. Coming up on the show, we've got the state cross-country championships to talk about. Andy Mason will be here for that. We got volleyball. We're headed potentially toward another state championship. Smithsburg is on the path to a state title. We'll get to that, and we'll start with football. Boonesboro and Allegheny in one of the greatest defensive battles in the playoffs of all time. Bob Parsoletti here to talk about that when you come back.
When your family is hurting, you don't have time to wait. Act now. Visit Meritus Urgent Care on Pennsylvania Avenue. Open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meritus Urgent Care treats minor conditions like earaches, sore throats, and sprains. Meritus Urgent Care also offers x-rays and sports physicals, and many prescriptions are filled on site. Located off Interstate 81 on Pennsylvania Avenue, visit Meritus Urgent Care. Expert care, close to home.
One, wanna be one, number one, it's gotta be fun. One, wanna be one, number one, it's gotta be fun. Punch it, kick it, giving it all. Premier Martial Arts helps take it to the top, y'all. Jab, cross, hook, kick, you feel it when we stick it. Wanna be one, winner, yeah, I won. I'm Premier, number one. Wanna be number one, kids? Have your parents call.
Welcome back to the show. Well, we begin with the football, and Bob Parsoletti joins me for that. And Bob, just a tough game for Boonesboro on Friday night in many respects. Temperature in the 40, wind speeds in the 40s at times. The weather was not conducive to the passing game for sure on Friday night for the most part. Not sure that affected teams greatly. But in terms of the defenses, I mean, what a defensive clinic on Friday night by both Boonesboro and Allegheny in a game that goes to overtime, scoreless, and winds up 6-3 in Allegheny's favor.
Well, I think that wind had a big factor in it. I mean, I was standing on the sidelines during the warm-ups, and Allegheny's over there trying to do punts and passes, and the scene started to look like the Les Nessman turkey scene in WKRP. Because I mean, footballs are dropping all over the place on the sidelines, you know, and I mean they couldn't keep them on the field. So it was evident the wind was going to take control of this game. And I think on the first drive when Boonesboro had a chance to score, they threw that long pass to try to catch it, kind of like the pass they threw against Smithsburg. And it got caught up in the air. I mean, it just like got up there and it just hung. And right there, that told Boonesboro they couldn't throw in this unless anything that was going to be thrown had to be short bullet passes, basically. So you take away the running part or the passing part of it. All of a sudden, you're playing two wing T teams against each other that practice against that stuff every day. They knew it was coming, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, it wasn't too hard to figure out because, as you said, both teams pretty much became one-dimensional. First drive of the game, by far, Boonesboro's best of the night. 14 total plays, 11 runs. They attempted 3 passes, of course, the last one being ill-fated, the interception that ended that drive. 50 yards on that drive. They wind up with 73 total yards in the first quarter, and the bulk of them on that drive. And by my stats then, through the second and third quarters, they only had 10 total yards through each of those quarters. So, again, the defense is really clamping down as the game went along. A little bit of controversy on the second snap of the second quarter, and I don't know how close you might have been to that particular punt, which was initially ruled a recovery by Boonesboro, having touched an Allegheny player, and then the officials overturned it.
I was actually right alongside of it, and actually it touched a Boonesboro player. The Boonesboro player was in front of the Allegheny player, and when they ran by, it kind of rolled off of him. So they got that call right. That was, I mean, you know, nobody else would believe it, but I mean, it was.
Yeah, I thought, from my perspective in the press box, and again, seeing it one time. And nowadays, of course, when you watch any game on TV, there are a million cameras, a million different angles, but seeing it one time, I didn't necessarily see the ball make a movement in a different direction in terms of being in close proximity to an Allegheny player. Yeah. And you obviously were much closer than I was.
I have the habit when I cover the games that I mark wherever the punt's from and I walk down so that I can give it the yardage. So I'm usually standing across from where the guys catch the ball, the returners catch the ball, and yeah, it was right in front of me.
Well, the ensuing drive then by Allegheny, just an epic of a drive. 18 plays, 64 yards, took nearly 2/3 of the second quarter, and then ultimately Boonesboro gets a 4th down stop. And I think if that first half told us anything, that the tone had been set, that the defenses were there to really, determine the outcome of the football game.
The thing that puzzled me about the whole thing is that they talked about Carson Imes, the quarterback for Allegheny, of being an option guy.
I completely agree with you.
And they didn't run him at all until the second half, and they did it minimally. So I don't know if he was hurt or if they were trying to take that wrinkle out, but that dimension was gone, and it just turned it into basic, power football on each other, running the same offense.
And it really did, because both teams used a number of different backs to carry the football. We knew Boonesboro would do that. Allegheny pretty much did the same thing, but when you take away the component of the quarterback running on Allegheny's side, Boonesboro was basically seeing probably what it practices against all the time with its own offense. So perhaps that made it a little easier for Boonesboro.
And I think vice versa, too.
Yeah,
Darian King, he was number 23, the running back. He was the most successful running back. Well, he got hurt on the one play, then he fumbled on another play, and then you didn't see him the rest of the night. And then they brought in
Elijah Llewellyn,
and he came on, and he looked like he was more of an option type running back, because they ran a lot of pitches with him as opposed to just handing off. And even on the overtime, he got the first 2 carries on pitch type plays, and Boonesboro buried it.
And I thought, as that game progressed too, and the defenses clamped down and things got tighter. Obviously, this was a one and done. If you didn't win, you were going home. The pressure seemed to ramp up potentially for both sides there. I thought in the second half of the game, Boonesboro got some big breaks, especially with Allegheny fumbling at the 6-yard line. Now, a lot of people will look at the way that the game played out in the end in overtime. But right there, I mean, that's a huge break for Boonesboro, because that's really an unforced error on Allegheny's part to turn the ball over there.
Well, in a game like this, a lot of times field position has a lot to do with things. And if you think back, Allegheny made the mistake down in that end. Boonesboro couldn't move the ball. They punted, and the ball went sideways and rolled out of bounds and gave them the short field.
At the 41-yard line.
So they had the short field coming in, and it looked like curtains there, but they got the fumble. And I guess that's the gods paying back the interception down at the other end on the first.
Average starting field position in the second half for Allegheny, its own 45-yard line. Conversely, for Boonesboro, starting from its own 22. So clearly, it was the field was slanted in Allegheny's favor. Let's get to that overtime. I thought it was surprising, first of all, that Boonesboro won the toss and elected to go on offense as opposed to putting the defense out there.
Well, I got a text today from Clayton, and Clayton Andrews, the coach, and he said that they lost the toss.
They lost the toss?
Allegheny won the toss and took defense.
Okay, now that makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so that wipes out that mystery there.
See, I didn't see it because I was texting and tweeting our scores.
Okay. So Boonesboro goes out, and 3 plays, they actually lose yardage, a sack on 3rd down, wind up kicking the field goal. Jarrett Rickards knocks it through. First field goal they had made in 3 attempts this year, so that was big. Boonesboro has the lead. Then 2 great defensive plays by Boonesboro. And then, again, I was a little surprised that the Warriors would call a timeout because they had everything rolling their way. They called the timeout. Allegheny comes out. Great execution on the play. Terrific fake to the right. Even better, perfect pass back to the left, and they get the touchdown.
Well, and the receiver made a great play, too, because he caught the ball at the 5 and did a reverse spin move to get out of the tackle and just kind of waltzed in. So, yeah, that was the really heartbreaking part because, Boonesboro made the stand on the first 2 plays, giving up no yardage whatsoever. And, You know, they got beat on a pass, which nobody could do the whole. I think there was only like 25 yards in passing for the entire game with the two teams combined.
Yeah, and I think if you told Coach Andrews before the game that your team is going to hold Allegheny to 6 points and you're going to take the football away from them 4 times, he would have said, well, we're going to win the game then.
Well, when I interviewed him for the preview in the paper, I mean, he was as calm as he could be. You know, usually you get that little bit of edge, and he was very calm about the whole thing because he matter-of-factly just said, if we play the way we've played all year, we will be fine. And they did. It was just they couldn't score. They couldn't, and I think that pass component. I mean, you take the pass component away from Boonesboro, that takes Alex Wetzel, who's their best receiver, out of there. He becomes more of a blocker on offense. You know, you take that Keegan Bowles play that's down the side or down the hash marks out of the play. You know, and you know. And it was one of those things where they lacked the polish of that because it's not something that they force a lot. It kind of comes. And you take something that kind of comes in the flow out of the flow.
Right, and I thought too, you know, they only wind up targeting Wetzel twice in the entire game. And again, obviously, the conditions had something to do with that. So obviously a very difficult loss for Boonesboro, about as tough as it gets to sustain your first loss of the year in a game like that.
Well, that's, you know, I mean, that's what everybody's going to, you know, a lot of people will see that undefeated season and say, oh, but they lost in the playoffs. And by far, they proved they belong there. I mean, a lot of people saw that they were going to be playing a Cumberland team and it was going to be blow it out.
Yeah.
But they proved they belong there. They had a season they should be proud of. It just didn't finish the way they wanted.
No, that's exactly right. Bob, thank you very much as always.
Right, thanks for having me on.
I'll be back right after this. I've got Andy Mason here to talk about some state cross-country champions when we come back.
Yeah, how can we help you today?
I really need to get back to work.
Whether it's going back to work or getting back on the golf course, Total Rehab Care maximizes every patient's individual potential, offering state-of-the-art rehab, including physical, occupational, and speech therapy, all in one location. Experts who take a personal interest in their patients' progress. Call or visit online for more information. Meritus Health, treating the community well.
Welcome back to the show. We continue now with cross country, and Andy Mason joins me for that. And Andy, what a day at the state cross country championships. You laid it out last week that 1A would belong to Washington County. That's the way that worked out. But the day started with 3A and probably, well, for me anyway, the greatest race that I've ever seen on a cross country course.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most exciting cross country races I've ever seen. I mean, here's Matt Bennett from Northern Calvert. He's got, you know, you saw it. He had, he was leading, you know, the final mile, 200 yards to go. He's up at least 20 yards, seemingly, you know, an insurmountable deficit for Darren Harmon in second. But then Harmon just started coming, and he unleashed this ferocious kick, and he's coming right at the line. He caught him. I was standing right there. I had no idea who won.
And you said to me, as they were making the turn and coming toward the finish, you said it's going to take a miracle.
Yeah.
And Harmon nearly pulled it off.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he still didn't know.
Oh my God.
Whether he made it or not.
They were both officially given 16:14.8 to the 10th of a second.
Yeah.
And Harmon, you know, when they broke out the camera, Harmon was 0.08 of a second. That's less than a whisker, I think.
And that's what separated him from an individual state
title. I mean, had the race been one more foot, I think Harmon wins it.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were both 16:14.8, so they sort of tied for the second fastest time of the whole day. Only the 4A champion ran faster. I mean, it was just a heck of a race. And Harmon almost, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Right there, he almost did it.
Oh, and he was telling, you know, it was that much.
Yeah.
And literally it was
It's the
that
kind of
much.
race you never forget, and he'll never forget. You know, he had a great race. There's nothing to be ashamed of, obviously, but I'm sure he's always going to think of that. You know, be that close to a title and not get it. But you know, it's that's sports, and he made it exciting.
Oh man, did he ever! And then we moved on to the 1A classification. We'll start with the girls in the order of events. Haley Wright of Boonesboro, that was not close at all.
Yeah, no one thought it would be. You know, she was going to have the flu and fall down for it to be close. You know, and she won as she was expected to do, won by over a minute, and you know, just business as usual. Again, I think she wanted to be faster. She wasn't one of the fastest girls of the whole day, but she didn't have anyone out there pushing her, and she even said after the race she didn't feel well. But she still ran 19:33, a great time, won by I think 74 seconds. It's a huge gap on second place.
But does that allow her to exhale a little bit now that she has a state championship?
I think so, sure, yeah. I mean, she's been, as I said before the meet, you know, going into state, she's the greatest runner in Washington County history to not have a state title. Far less caliber runners from Washington County have won multiple state titles, you know, and she's run, you know, 10:54, 5 flat on the track, and she still doesn't own a state title.
Right.
But, you know, she's, last year, had she been in 1A, she would have won the state title.
Yeah.
But, you know, now she has her state title. She's got 2 seasons of track left. She's off to the University of Alabama.
Yeah, an incredible week for her.
Yes.
I mean, that was the culmination of a terrific week. And her team also wins a state championship.
Oh, man, yeah, the team race of the day, you know, we knew going in it was either going to be Smithsburg, the girls, the defending champ, or Boonesboro. One of those two were going to win. One was going to get second. And Boonesboro, who would, you know, finish behind Smithsburg more times than not that they're in the fall, comes through with the 8-point win.
And was it that Boonesboro stepped up, or did Smithsburg not have its best day?
I've looked at the results. I think Boonesboro definitely stepped up, but you know they took 3 of the top 5 spots, so that's a huge step up. Haley winning was no surprise, but Caitlin Rogers getting 3rd place in the state, that was a surprise. Cameron Harper getting 5th in the state, that's a surprise. They put 3 in front of Smithsburg's top runner, Erica Lindsay, who was 6th. I mean, you put 3 in front of someone's number 1, you're very hard to beat is when you still have that depth that they have, and that was it. So they had, you know, but they had Boonesboro had some girls who didn't have their best days. McKenna Lugier had a great day. She was 13th. So yeah, they had a great day. Smithsburg, you know, I was, you know, looking back at it, you know, afterward, they left with 6 medals.
Yeah.
They won. Yeah, Smithsburg girls took almost a quarter of the individual medals. I mean, maybe what else more could they have done?
Yeah, they just kept calling the names at the award ceremony at the end, and yet Smithsburg doesn't get the big trophy.
Yeah, Boonesboro only had 4 top 25 medals. Smithsburg had 6, but they had those 3 in the top 5.
6th state title for Boonesboro now on the girls' side. As far as the boys are concerned, Smithsburg's Will Merritt there made that look pretty easy.
Yeah, he won by, I think, 31 seconds. 16:50. Again, I'm sure he wanted to be a little bit faster. I think he just had the 21st. You know, everyone, when all the races are over, you take all the classifications and see where you stand. He had the 21st best time of the day, but he won. You know, he beat everyone he had to beat that day. And he won convincingly.
And he becomes the 3rd state champ in Smithsburg history, the first since David Wilson back in 2009.
Yeah.
And of course, he's only a junior, so has an opportunity to repeat potentially next year.
Yes.
And as far as the boys team championship, Boonesboro did what we thought Boonesboro could do.
Yeah, they went in as the favorite. Now, Bohemia Manor was missing Ty Franks, the 3-time individual state champ, and had they had him, that might have been a little bit closer. And it might have been more fun for Merritt to be able to race. You know, Merritt's had a great season. I'm sure he would have liked to end it racing against the 3-time defending champ, but Franks wasn't there. Allowed Merritt to win easily, allowed Boonesboro boys to win the team title rather easily, led by Michael Bear. Smithsburg had it. Then Merritt led the Smithsburg boys to, you know,
second place.
Second place. Their first second place finish in the history of their program. They won the state title in 1977, and they hadn't placed top 2 since then or before.
Yeah. So congratulations to all of our state champions and all those medal winners. Great cross-country season.
Yeah.
And Andy, is always great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Wes.
I'll be back right after this. The show continues with volleyball, ramping up to the state championship there in just a moment.
wanna be one. Number one, it's gotta be fun. One, wanna be one. Number one, it's gotta be fun. Punch it, kick it, giving it all. Premier martial arts helps take it to the top, y'all. Jab, cross, hook, kick, you feel it when we stick it. Wanna be one, winner, yeah, I won. I'm premier, number one. Wanna be number one, kids? Have your parents call.
Welcome back to the show. Well, in volleyball, after the county captured section titles last Wednesday in 1A and 3A West Section 2 and 2A West Section 1 to advance 3 teams to region finals, unfortunately, 2 of our representative seasons ended there. Williamsport's Friday night at Liberty, 3-1, and North Hagerstown's Saturday night at Damascus, 3-2. In between, however, Smithsburg kept rolling by exercising its demons of never having won at Fort Hill to earn a Tuesday evening trip to the familiar confines of the University of Maryland's Ritchie Coliseum. And with the fingers and thumbs already adorned with state title rings, the focus became winning one for one of the lower phalanges. Personally, I'd love to see just how that would look. The Leopards looked a little rough early in their state semifinal match against the overall #1 seed Perryville, falling behind 10-6 in the first set. But Coach Rachel Brashear offered some reasons why that may have happened and subsequently provided her team the praise she felt they deserved for fighting out of it.
It was very emotional on Saturday. You know, we had never won up at Fort Hill before, and we had really geared our whole season on getting an opportunity to go up there and win, you know. And on Monday, you know, it's hard to prepare for these games because we only go on what we knew from Perryville last year, you know. And when you look back at the scores last year, I think they were closer than what the scores indicated. You know, and this year they look like a totally different ball club. So it's really hard to prepare for a team that, you know, lives on the other side of the state that we don't really get an opportunity, you know, to go see. But, you know, I think the girls who have been here before know the importance and urgency that they have to have when they step on the floor here, you know, so I think that goes in our favor, but it's definitely difficult, you know, to prepare when we don't really know what we're coming into. Getting down the first game and being able to, you know, get the momentum back and get that nice run and settle into the game. You know, I was proud of the way that they were swinging hard. You know, like we were really coming after them in the front row. Our back row attacks looked good. Our serving was tough. You know, and I was really proud of the fact that they could come in and play tough. You know, they were playing to win. They weren't playing not to lose. You know, and you know, I was really proud of their effort tonight.
The effort was of the total team variety with major contributions across the stat sheet for the reigning and defending 1A state title holders and ultimately resulted in a 25-14, 25-14, 25-17 sweep of their Cecil County opponent for the 4th time in 4 all-time meetings, the previous 3 all coming in the state championship match. Asked after Tuesday's semifinal setback if he was sick of seeing Smithsburg at this stage of the season, Perryville head coach Matt Borelli quipped, "We want to beat them. That will have to wait at least another year." This time, Smithsburg will face McDonough for all the 1A marbles, a team that will be a true underdog, having made it to the final despite being just the #3 seed in its North Region section. As prohibitive favorites, Coach Brashear says nothing changes as it relates to preparing her team, and it all starts with evaluating her Leopards' Tuesday night performance.
We're going to look at what we did really well tonight. You know, we're going to talk about what we did well. And then there's things that we didn't do so well tonight that, you know, we can improve on for Friday's game. So we're always trying to get better, you know, and never satisfied with, you know, we're going to celebrate this win tonight and we're going to enjoy it. But tomorrow in practice, we're going to, you know, talk about the things that we still need to improve so that, you know, Friday we're giving ourselves the best chance we have to be successful.
And if successful, it'll be Smithsburg's 6th state title in 7 years, which would also tie Brashear with Cindy Neugebauer for most state crowns for a Washington County head coach. History hangs in the balance Friday evening in College Park when the Leopards square off against the Rams at 6 o'clock. One more order of business on this week's show, and that's overtime. And Boonesboro fans, I promise this overtime session ends well. Back with that after this.
Yeah, how can we help you today?
I really need to get back to work.
Whether it's going back to work or getting back on the golf course, Total Rehab Care maximizes every patient's individual potential, offering state-of-the-art rehab, including physical, occupational, and speech therapy, all in one location. Experts who take a personal interest in their patients' progress. Call or visit online for more information. Meritus Health, treating the community well.
Tony's Pizza in Williamsport has had the same simple philosophy since 1985. Start with simple products. Sauce from the best Italian tomatoes, the best cheese and dough made fresh every day. Then mix those with a great atmosphere, and you'll have the best dining experience you can find. Tony's is known for their pasta dishes, subs, pizzas, and specialty items like their Nutella Dots and the famous Crazy Tony. Simply put, they want to give the best food they can give to their customers. So stop in today to Tony's Pizza in Williamsport.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health Urgent Care and Total Rehab. Well, it's time for overtime, and I focus on just what a crazy sports weekend it really was. And maybe it's just because it was the November Friday the 13th sports weekend. In the National Football League, history was defied and rewritten. Home field provided very little advantage on Sunday, as road teams rode off with 9 wins in 12 games. Even the most sacred home fields were not immune. Seattle lost its second straight at CenturyLink Field, a place often considered to create the greatest upper hand for an NFL team, and it came in the Russell Wilson era, a time frame during which the Seahawks have posted a 28-5 record there. Before Sunday, there really hadn't been a recent string of home domination of one team over another, like Green Bay's over Detroit. The Packers had not lost to the Lions at Lambeau Field in 24 years. Until Sunday, that is. In Jacksonville, aided by a helping Baltimore hand on a face mask on the game's final play, halted the league's longest road losing streak at 13 by using the untimed down that resulted from the penalty to kick a field goal and upend the Ravens. And if those weren't enough happenings from the history doesn't support it file, what about Peyton Manning's day? 1 minute Peyton setting the NFL's all-time record for most career passing yards, and the next he's benched after throwing his 4th interception of the day in the same game. And as bizarre as Sunday's pro football action may have turned out to be, it was all preceded by the thunder that emanated from down under when the seemingly invincible Ronda Rousey was knocked out in her UFC Bantamweight Championship bout in Australia by the much less heralded Holly Holm on Saturday. But isn't that a big part of the reason we follow sports? We want to experience new chapters being written to the history books, and we want to witness underdogs rising up to pull off the near impossible. So the short answer is, of course it is. And that's why I have to admit that perhaps I was swilling a little of the Blue Boonesboro Kool-Aid before the Warriors hosted Allegheny Friday night in a 1A West Region State semifinal football game. Even the most ardent Boonesboro backers seemed to harbor doubts that their Warriors could play with Cumberland's Campers, and not without reason. History supported the dubious. Not only had Boonesboro never beaten Allegheny, the Warriors entered Friday 0-3 all-time against the school that owns the second most titles in state history. The closest the Warriors had ever come to Allegheny was 30 points. Boonesboro came into this one, though, as the undefeated team, winners of 12 straight and 7 in succession at home, while the Campers were 8-2, entering off a loss and playing just their 3rd game away from Greenway Avenue Stadium. Yes, the Warriors had not played the world's toughest schedule, but neither had Allegheny. Boonesboro's opponents had combined to win 37 total games, while Allegheny's had 41 to their credit. Even the usually ridiculously braggadocious Allegheny website emblazoned the warning, "Don't take Boonesboro lightly," across its homepage. Still, many who were at Warrior Field to cheer on the home team on Friday were trepidatious in large part because of the long shadows cast by the mystique that radiated from the visitors' side of the stadium. Whether the Warriors cast themselves in the underdog role is unknown. What is known is that Boonesboro played like the only unbeaten team in the entire 1A classification and ultimately succumbed in gut-wrenching fashion in one of the greatest toe-to-toe playoff battles ever contested in this county. It's clear the Warriors will take no solace in making believers out of those who wavered or accept any type of moral victory for hanging tough to the bitter end on Friday, because as Coach Andrews put it, quote, "I'd rather be 6-4 and win in the first round of the playoffs than going 10-0 and losing the first game," end quote. While the final destination wasn't realized, the journey was an outstanding one. Coach, here's to you, your staff, and a great group of guys on that team. That was the last bit of that blue Kool-Aid from Friday night, washing down a zany sports weekend and what's been a memorable fall sports season here in the county. Next week, one more look back at the best of the best. It's our 2015 Fall Sports Awards show. That'll be our final entry for the season. For now, thanks for watching. Good luck to the Smithsburg volleyball team on Friday, and I'll see you next time on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.